Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking a bit of a sledgehammer to one of the glossiest, most high-tech narratives out there. We're talking about artificial intelligence in healthcare. And I don't mean the sci-fi stuff.
So we're not talking holographic doctors or nanobots repairing cells from the inside?
Exactly. I feel like every time I open a tech magazine, that's the pitch. It's always this Jetsons vision where AI is this luxury upgrade. You know, super precise robot surgeons or an algorithm that spots a rare disease in a nanosecond.
Right. It's always framed as this race towards superhuman capability, taking a system that works and just making it faster, smarter, shinier.
But the research we are unpacking today, and specifically this text titled Healthcare AI as Infrastructure for Scarcity, it just throws a wet blanket on that entire parade.
It really does.
The central argument here is that AI isn't showing up in your local clinic because the system is ready for some luxury upgrade. It's showing up because the system is, well, it's effectively collapsing.
It's a massive pivot in perspective. The author argues we aren't adopting AI to innovate, we are adopting it to survive. They use this phrase that just really sets the tone for the whole piece.
Infrastructure for scarcity?
Infrastructure for scarcity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds so utilitarian. Almost desperate.
It is desperate. And to understand why, we have to kind of ignore the tech for a minute and just look at the labor market. The backdrop here isn't code.
No, it's the empty chair in the doctor's office.
I was looking at the numbers in the source material, and staggering doesn't quite cover it. We're talking about a projected shortage of up to 124,000 physicians in the U.S. alone by 2034.
And that's not just a generic number, right? That shortage is concentrated in primary care and behavioral health, the front lines.
And globally, it's even starker.
Yeah.
The World Health Organization is estimating a 10 million worker shortage by 2030. That's a population larger than New York City just missing.
Exactly. So when you have that kind of vacuum, the people who are left are just crushed. Burnout rates are exceeding 50% in multiple specialties. But here's the stat that I think explains the AI push better than anything.
Well, this one made my blood boil a little bit.
It should. It's the time motion studies. These studies show that physicians now spend nearly twice as much time on documentation, data entry, compliance, billing codes, as they do on direct patient care.
Twice as much time. So for every 10 minutes a doctor actually looks at me, they spend 20 minutes interacting with a screen.
Essentially, yeah. They are the highest paid data entry clerks in the world.
So, okay, let's connect this to the AI argument. If the system is bleeding talent and the people who stay are drowning in paperwork, AI isn't entering a vacuum of possibility.
No, it's entering a care vacuum. It is literally filling the holes.
And this is why that infrastructure label is so important, isn't it?
When we think of infrastructure, we think of roads, plumbing, stuff you don't really choose to use.
Right, it's just the only way to get from A to B. You don't innovate a bridge when it's collapsing. You just patch it.
Precisely. And that dictates where we are seeing AI show up. It's not the glamorous robot surgeon.
It's the digital plumbing.
It's the digital plumbing, automated symptom triage, radiology pre-reads because there aren't enough radiologists, clinical risk scoring.
The unsexy stuff.
The necessary stuff. I mean, think about the last time you tried to make a doctor's appointment.
It's a nightmare. You call, you're on hold, you go to the portal, you fill out a form.
And increasingly, that portal is the only front door. You interact with a triage bot before a human ever knows you exist. That isn't a cool feature. That is a dam holding back a flood of patients that the clinic literally cannot handle.
So if I can play devil's advocate for a second here.
Yeah.
Isn't that a good thing? I mean, if the system is broken and I can't get an appointment, I'd rather talk to a bot than nobody.
Sure.
If AI is the duct tape on the bursting pipe, shouldn't we be grateful for the tape?
And that's the common counterargument. Something is better than nothing. In a vacuum, sure. But the source argues that when you use AI as a patch for scarcity, you change the nature of medicine itself. You aren't just speeding up the old process, you're fundamentally altering it.
And this brings us to the concept of diagnostic compression.
Yeah.
This was probably the densest part of the reading for me, but also the most terrifying.
It's the core of the argument. Let's just visualize it. In the U.S., the average primary care visit is hovering around 15 minutes.
Which is barely enough time to take off your coat.
Right. And in that 15 minutes, the doctor has to assess you, review your history, document everything, and make a decision. The cognitive load is immense.
So the logic goes, bring in AI. The AI reads the chart, looks at my vitals, and suggests a diagnosis. Boom. Efficiency.
But here's the trap. That is diagnostic compression. The AI is trained on patterns. It looks for the statistical average. It says, Based on these 3 data points, the most likely answer is X.
And the doctor, who has 4 minutes left and a waiting room full of people, says, "Great, looks good," and clicks accept.
Exactly. The source argues this prioritizes speed over nuance. It reshapes what gets noticed.
Can you give me a concrete example of what gets lost there? Because if I have strep throat, I want the pattern recognition.
Strep is easy, but let's say you come in with fatigue. That's a vague symptom. In an old school model, a diagnostic expansion model, the doctor might sit back and say, "Tell me about your job. How's your marriage? What are you eating?" They're casting a wide net.
The human element.
Right. They might pick up on a hesitation in your voice that suggests depression or a comment about your diet. But in a compressed model, the algorithm sees fatigue and immediately checks your blood work for iron deficiency.
And if that comes back normal, the algorithm might just, shrug?
It might. And the doctor, relying on that infrastructure, might just tell you to get more sleep and send you home, because the path of least resistance has been paved by the AI. It strips away the messy human context because context takes time. And time is the one thing we just don't have.
It reminds me of that phenomenon doctors call the doorknob moment, where the patient stands up to leave, puts their hand on the door, and then goes, "Oh, by the way, doctor."
Exactly. That moment only happens if there is trust and a little bit of breathing room. If the entire interaction is driven by a checklist generated by a bot, you kill the doorknob moment. You streamline the humanity right out of the room.
That is deeply unsettling. It turns the patient into just a row in a spreadsheet.
And that leads us directly to the patient's experience of this. Because if the doctor is being corralled by this infrastructure, the patient is being corralled even more.
The source talks about consent. And I feel like consent is a word we just throw around in tech. I agree to the terms and conditions. Click.
The biggest lie on the internet. I have read and agreed.
But this is deeper. The text distinguishes between deliberative consent and, acquiescent consent.
It's a vital distinction. Deliberative consent is what we aspire to. It means you have meaningful options. I can take pill A, pill B, or do surgery. You weigh the pros and cons and you choose. You have agency.
Okay.
Acquiescent consent is what happens when you say yes, because the only other option is no care.
You can talk to the mental health chatbot now, or you can wait 6 months to see a human therapist.
Exactly. If you're in crisis, are you choosing the chatbot? Of course not. You're acquiescing, you're taking what is available. The source highlights mental health specifically because it's where this is happening fastest.
It feels coercive. It's not a free market choice.
It's an illusion of choice. And the problem is that our governance frameworks, the people making the rules, they treat it like a free choice. They look at the data and say, look, 80% of patients chose the chatbot. They love it.
When in reality, 80% of patients just wanted to talk to someone, and the bot was the only door that opened.
Precisely. We are conflating desperation with adoption.
Okay, so let's talk about the people who are supposed to be protecting us from this. The regulators, the hospital admins. If AI is structural duct tape, surely someone is checking to make sure the tape holds.
You would hope. But this brings us to what the source calls the governance lag. And this is where the blame game gets really messy.
I can imagine. Because if an AI misses a diagnosis, who's responsible?
Well, let's look at the players. The AI vendor, the tech company, usually writes into their contract that their tool is strictly clinical decision support.
Support, that's the magic legal word.
It is. It means we aren't practicing medicine. We're just a fancy calculator. The doctor makes the decision. They wash their hands of liability.
Okay, so it falls on the doctor.
Legally, yes. The clinician holds the license. But think back to our diagnostic compression scenario. If the hospital admin is pressuring that doctor to see a patient every 12 minutes...
and incentivizing them to use the AI to speed things up.
Exactly. The doctor is in a double bind. If they blindly trust the AI and it's wrong, they get sued. But if they take the time to double-check every single AI suggestion, their throughput metrics drop and they get reprimanded.
That's a nightmare. They're being set up to be the liability sponge, the fall guy for the algorithm.
And the source calls this structural lag. The laws assume a world where doctors have time to think critically. The reality is a world where they're relying on these tools just to make it to lunch.
So we have a system running on scarcity, using AI as a crutch, with laws that haven't caught up. It feels like a powder keg.
It is.
So how do we defuse it? The source material doesn't just admire the problem, it tries to offer a way out. But it requires asking different questions.
Right. Usually when regulators look at AI, they ask technical questions. Is the data biased? Is the model 99% accurate? Can we explain the black box?
Which are valid questions.
They are valid, but they are secondary. The source argues the first question must be, which system failure necessitated this tool?
Oh, I like that. Don't look at the code, look at the clinic.
Exactly. Admit that this is infrastructure for scarcity. Once you admit that, you can govern it differently. You stop pretending it's just a helper, and you start regulating it like a safety valve.
So what does that look like in practice?
It means we need explicit boundaries on substitution versus support. We need to define clearly, when is it okay for a machine to completely replace a human task? And when is it just not?
And I'd assume we need protection for the humans who say no.
Crucially, we need override protection. If a doctor's gut tells them the AI is wrong and they order an expensive test that comes back negative, they shouldn't be penalized for wasting resources. We have to protect the human right to be cautious.
The source used a term that I thought was really evocative, the cognitive age.
Yes,
Usually when people say that, they mean the age of smart machines, but the author flips it.
they do. They argue that the cognitive age isn't about how smart our tools are, it's about how our institutions govern intelligence under pressure. It's a test of our organizational IQ, not our artificial IQ.
Can we manage the tools without letting the tools manage us?
That's the test. If we fail, we just end up with an automated assembly line of care. Fast, cheap, and completely hollow.
Which brings me to the thought I've been dreading, but we have to go there. We've established that AI is filling the gaps because human care is scarce.
Right?
If we follow that trend line, if AI becomes the default front door, the default diagnostician, the default therapist,
Yeah.
are we heading toward a world where human interaction in healthcare is a luxury product?
That is the provocative thought that keeps ethicists up at night.
I'm picturing a two-tiered system.
We're already seeing the cracks.
Yeah.
If you have resources, money, good insurance, you get concierge medicine, you pay a retainer, you get a doctor's cell phone number, you get hour-long visits.
You get the diagnostic expansion, you get the humanity.
You buy the humanity.
Yeah.
But for everyone else,
Yeah.
for the public system, you get the infrastructure of scarcity. You get the chatbot. You get the automated triage. You get the 15-minute slot optimized by an algorithm.
So AI becomes the public option, and a human becomes the premium subscription.
If we don't fix the underlying scarcity, the shortage of doctors, the burnout, the paperwork, then yes, that is exactly where the gravity of the system pulls us. We are designing a system where care is technically available to everyone, but caring is reserved for the few.
That is a heavy realization. But I think it's why this source material is so important. We can't just be dazzled by the shiny robot surgeon. We have to look at the plumbing.
We do. Next time you log into a patient portal and a bot asks you how you're feeling, just remember, you aren't just using an app, you are looking at a patch on a system that is struggling to hold together.
And recognizing that is the first step to demanding something better.
Absolutely.
This has been a sobering one, but really necessary. Thanks for helping us peel back the layers on this.
Always a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, take care of yourselves and maybe be a little extra nice to your doctor next time you see them. They're fighting the algorithm too. We'll see you in the next deep dive.